We are the Dante Highwoodmen you're too scared to mention. We are Eat, Sleep, Suplex, Retweet. My name is David Haughney, and I spend my cash on looking flash and grabbing your attention. Welcome to another live pay-per-view review. And today, seeing as we're right in the midst of WrestleMania week, we're going to be talking about NXT Takeover Stand and Deliver. So this is going to be much like our other pay-per-view reviews, which you can catch on our Facebook community page and our YouTube channel, Eat, Sleep, Suplex, Retweet. We do these every time there's a preview or a takeover coming out. So be sure to tune in, subscribe, follow us on there, including on our social medias, at Suplex Retweet on Twitter and Instagram. Be sure to join us on our Facebook community page and subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can find great content such as this, including the Book It tournament finals, the conspiracy theories, and many other great content. But let's not waste any time. Let's delve straight into the NXT TakeOver Stand and Deliver preview. Up first, a guy who's referring to himself as Champ, given that he's had a successful run on Quiz Showdown, although has had to vacate the title due to not turning up, shall we say? Ryan Gallagher, what have you got to say for yourself?
How about unmute yourself, you Dan?
All you're going to say is, listen, calm down, boys, right, calm down. All I'm going to say is, Dave, you used the word vacate there, right? I vacated absolutely nothing on this. There might be somebody sitting in that top corner calling himself the true champ. Listen, we've got a double cruiserweight title match on this card over the course of this NXT takeover. This is me and Ross, mate. Like, one of us thinks he's the real champ. One of us claims to be the real champ. Let's be honest. We all know who the real champ is. It's Jordan Devlin, the good Irish man. That's me, the champ, the real champ. I am here to defend. And if Ross wants a square go at any time, just say the word, mate. I will be there, ready to go.
Spoken like a true Celtic warrior there. Am I right?
Correct, mate.
Whoa. No. Don't take my part on the Facebook page earlier and pass it after your name. Don't you dare, you patter thief.
The one time in his life that Ross has said patter and he's getting a bit touchy about it.
Why not, Daniel? Why not?
Oh yeah, and the McLeod brothers are also here. First is my Saturday Draft Live co-host Scott. Scott, how are you?
I don't know which one of them is meant to be Jordan Devlin. They both got massive heads.
And also as someone claiming to be the true Quiz Showdown champion. And if you've heard our feature show this week, the Raw After Mania moments, there's been a lot of shall we say, conversation around one Jack Swagger. And I think he now declares Jack Swagger as the new hero of Scotland. That is Ross McLeod.
Yes, Jack Swagger, what a man. Clearly the patriot that everyone's been looking for. I mean, if Shea Adams and Lyndon Dykes can play up front for Scotland, then can we not get Jack Swagger? But moving swiftly on, yes. As you stole my part there, Dave, for the Celtic Warrior, which is what I called Ryan earlier. Ryan gave me, as we do these sweeps, just to let you know, guys, we did the Live Central earlier, me, Grant, and Stephen. We're doing the NXT TakeOver. We're covering both nights here. We're going to do a night each for WrestleMania. We're going to do one on Saturday, one on Sunday. And for those of you that follow the Twitter or follow the podcast, we usually do a sweep for pay-per-views. And we thought, because WrestleMania has gotten so big that it needs an entire week, because matches like the tag titles and the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal are having to be put on SmackDown, we thought we'd go big or go home. So we are going to go for the biggest sweep we've ever done. We're going to have a sweep covering both nights of TakeOver. Shut your hole, Daniel. Both nights of TakeOver, Friday night SmackDown, and both nights of WrestleMania. It's going to be a marathon challenge. I say we're going to do this to make it more interesting and try get someone different to win the belt. But truly, I've tried everything, and it always ends up being Scott, Stephen, or Campbell. So, like,
I mean, Ross, you say that I've not been the champ in over a year,
and I've been getting better at sweeps, so I wouldn't count me out in the sweepstakes now.
I count you out in most things in life, Dave. I count you out.
I'm horrendous at sweeps, so don't count me in that one.
Anyway, back to the wrestling. Shall we talk about TakeOver Stand and Deliver?
I might as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's start off with a bang here. We're going to kick off with what we presume is going to be the main event of night 2, and it's going to be Finn Balor versus Karrion Kross for the NXT Championship. Now, Scott, I'm going to start with you on this one. Obviously, the NXT Championship has had a bit of ups and downs ever since Kross won his first reign by defeating Keith Lee, but then he had to vacate it the following night due to injury. And ever since then, Finn Balor's just sort of taken the ball and ran with it. You know, he's had a bit of a feud with the Undisputed Era, and now they're finally getting this grudge match that we've been waiting for so long. And I think my first question is, to sum up what Balor said, what took it so long?
Yeah, it's a wonder that Kross came back as quick as he did. He went into his weird detour feud with the likes of Priest and then Santos Escobar for some reason, kind of give him some wins under his belt before he went back after Balor. You have to think that if plans went as they were going to, Kross would have probably held the title all the way from Takeover 30 up to here, and probably would have built someone up to beat him as the monster. But as it stands, he's back here, and it's good that Balor came in, like was there in NXT where he was, because he's been such a high level as the Prince character that he's got now, and he's talked about how he feels more confident in himself, and he says about people ask him about rumors of the demon coming back. He said, "I actually think that would be a step back." So I think NXT was glad that they had someone like Balor who could immediately step into that role. And I don't want to say hold on to the belt for Kross, but he could help carry the brand, have such great matches like Pete Dunne, Kyle O'Reilly before this. But I think this card, as we'll get to, has been so stacked. I think this match has been a bit overshadowed despite the fact it's going to end the big takeover.
You know, Ross, Scott actually brings up a really good point here, because, you know, obviously, you know, we've discussed before on Takeover preview shows that Takeover cards are usually generally very well stacked. It's not always the main event that stands out, you know, amongst everything. But how do you think Finn Balor has carried himself as NXT champion compared to his first reign, when he was a scary demon from another dimension?
Yeah, as Scott mentioned, obviously thinking the demon would be a bit of a step back. I think a criticism of the demon was that when it got brought out, you know, he's lost one match as the demon in WWE. I think you always knew, right, he's not losing here. It kind of took the illusion away that he was ever going to lose a title, you know what I mean? Whereas now he is a bit more cocky, a bit of swagger about him. Whereas, and I think as well, he's been caught in this really rock and a hard place sort of thing, that he came in as Adam Cole was on fire as NXT champion. He then got kind of caught up in the sort of Keith Lee rise, because everyone wanted to see Keith Lee as NXT champion. Then obviously Karrion Kross comes in and they build him as this monster. So it's good and bad that the fact that he's been caught in the background, because it's allowed him to develop this character. And when someone like Kross has went away, he's been able just to slide right in there and become like the guy for NXT. His injuries have hampered his title run a wee bit. I felt the Kyle O'Reilly feud ran a bit long. I don't like face versus face feuds, but the matches themselves were tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this was one, obviously the feud started with Balor saying, "What took you so long?" This was one of those ones when Balor wins the title, because he's been bubbling under the surface for so long, you need to give him a bit of a reign. So for Karrion Kross to come back quicker than anyone expected, it wouldn't have made sense. It would have damaged, I think, the title and Finn Balor for Karrion Kross just to come in and take the title.
Mm-hmm.
But something I want to touch on is that there's been reports coming out recently that Karrion Kross might be going to Raw or SmackDown. Partly,
yeah, I've seen that.
WWE higher-ups are quite high up on Karrion Kross. So is it better to maybe give Karrion a fresh start on Raw and SmackDown, because he kind of just started on NXT? Or are we, like, would it damage Finn Balor to try replicate the championship run they want to give Karrion Kross in the summer?
Yeah.
I think, Ross, just to sorry to jump in, Dave, just what Ross was saying there, I think it would be a real disappointment if Kross did get this NXT title run, because I think he's deserved it even from the work he'd done when he first came in. They built up as this major character, this total bruiser that came in. If he goes into this match against Balor and loses and moves up, you're going to have a guy who dominated for a couple of weeks and then get injured and then get pushed up to Raw or SmackDown, whatever it's going to be. I think he needs to have a good dominated run as a champ before he moves up and continues that, almost like the whole, I've got unfinished business in NXT. Okay, that's me done in NXT. I'll move up now. I think if you put him up just now, it kind of dampens that character that I think they were building for him.
Yeah, you actually took the words right out of my mouth there, Ryan, because I was going to talk to you about Cross as an individual and how his time on NXT's come around, because he's yet to be pinned and he lost the NXT title in the first place was due to injury. So I think you do make an excellent point about, if he were to lose now, like what would that say for with, him having the rug pulled out from under him after he'd sort of spent so long pursuing the NXT title, which he never ever lost.
Mm-hmm.
Aye, so
yeah,
Dave,
I'm going to get your...
Sorry, who wants to go?
Sorry, I'll jump in. I think my internet might be kind of going, so I'll make a point very, very quickly. You were cutting out there, Dave, and I'll jump through next door. Just on Cross, and a point I had wanted to make from the start on this, when they said, what took you so long for this feud, and did they kind of waste time with Cross when he came back? I don't think they did. I think they actually done the right thing with Cross, because like Ross said about Balor's title run, I think if you took the title off of Balor, it would just totally ruin any kind of credibility you've got for that belt. Whereas they had Cross come back and almost kind of built him up again to the point he was at, and he's come in. So I think, just on your earlier comment, I think it's a great time for this feud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So great points from the guys all around. But I'd like to get your first predictions of the night. Who do you think's walking out of Stand and Deliver as NXT champion? Ross, I'll start with you.
Well, me and Jack have had an absolutely horrendous draft season. So you know what? I'm just going to double down on it. I'm just going to say Finn Balor. Finn Balor to win it here.
Yeah, for any viewers that don't know, Finn Balor is Ross and Jack's team captain on the ESSR draft team this season. So I'm not surprised that they want to win.
They switched it to Rhea Ripley a few weeks ago.
Oh, so they did. Yeah, I forgot about that. Scott, who do you think is going to win the championship?
I think Cross is going to win, because they want to give him the title run they had, at least till like SummerSlam, because I think even though they're high up on him, they don't need to be in any real rush to bring him up, because like they're trying to do the thing where it's kind of it's still developmental but also still a third brand, so they don't need to be in as much a rush to, as he's still run. Now he's up to the main roster. Mm-hmm. And also Balor can still stick around and contribute to NXT even without the title, because I think there's a certain large Austrian fellow who's on the card who Balor was meant to go into a program with pre-pandemic that he can pick up with.
Yeah,
so
Ryan.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to him in just a bit, but
no, Ryan's put in the chat his pick is Cross.
But he sent a message saying he's also picking Cross to retain the championship. I'm going with the majority here. I'm also going to go with Cross from under him, just as he's gaining back all that momentum he had in his original run before his injury. So we're going to move quickly on now to one of the undercard matches that was announced during the 12-person battle royal to determine the order of the Gauntlet Eliminator. And it's Pete Dunne versus Kushida, who ended up both eliminating each other when Kushida had done an armbar, and they both went out at the same time. And then almost a few minutes later, they were announced to have a match. So just very quickly going to go around you guys. This type of match, Ross, this type of match is an internet diehard wrestling fan's dream right here. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I pointed out that WrestleMania, although the spectacle, the big matches, the wrestling purist matches are often seen as those that take place on Wrestle Kingdom, and recently AEW has been getting all the internet love. WWE have placed themselves in a position where in the 1 week they're going to have Pete Dunne versus Kushida, Cesaro versus Seth Rollins, and Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. This could steal the whole week. I believe this is this night one, Pete Dunne Kushida?
Yeah, it's on night one.
Yeah, this could
be the opener as well.
Yeah, this could steal the whole week, and it could be the first match on the card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if it was the first match. They might even start with the gauntlet match, but you never know. Scott, obviously we've had the pleasure of seeing Kushida in ICW before, and Pete Dunne as well, both ICW events. How good do you think it's going to be, seeing these two finally clash on a WWE stage?
Yeah, we talked about it on Central the other week, where I said I'd heard the rumours of this match being a possibility. So when we were talking about the Battle Royal that was going to determine the gauntlet participants, and we were making a kind of wee many predictions there, I said that this match was probably going to happen because I'd heard about it, and I said how we'd seen Kushida and ICW. Me and Ross got to be in Blackpool for the first Takeover, see Coffey versus Dunne. So we know how great these two guys are, but I don't think they've actually got a chance to face each other. So it's that kind of dream match you love to see, especially on a Takeover stage. And yeah, I think it's something different because you got ladder matches, you got big title matches, but this is just going to be a pure technical showcase, and I can't wait to see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ryan, Scott mentions this match has the potential to be a technical showcase, but obviously these guys are very much into different sort of strong style forms of wrestling as well. Kushida, a much more aggressive submission specialist, whereas Pete Dunne's got his own form of British strong style. Do you expect to see a lot of sparks fly between these two, even though it's not been as heavily advertised a match compared to the other matches on the card?
Do you know, I expect this match to steal the show this weekend. I think the only other one that I'm more excited for is the match we're going to be talking about later on, which is O'Reilly against Adam Cole. That's the only one I'm more excited for in terms of storyline. In terms of match, I don't think this one's going to get outdone. I think this is going to be a tremendous match, like you say. The two different styles, they're very different, but also kind of the same as well in some ways. So, I mean, I'm a big Pete Dunne fan. I think the condition he's got himself in recently since his return after the kind of year that we've had, he looks better than he's ever looked. You touched on seeing Kushida at ICW. I've been a fan of Kushida for a good while in NXT, and I've seen that same match that we were talking about at ICW as well. In the flesh, he looks amazing. I think
Oh, he's keeping us on a knife edge here. What do you think, Ryan? Come on.
Ryan.
Say that again?
You froze there. I thought you were pausing for dramatic emphasis midpoint.
You went, I think, and then paused, and we were like, what do you think?
No, it's the joys of council internet, boys. I think it's going to steal the show. I think that's what it's going. That's what I said. I think it's going to steal the show this week.
Nice.
All right, so let's get your predictions now. Ross, who do you think is winning?
Kushida, as Dave calls him.
Yeah, Scott.
For similar reasons to Ross being draft related, I'm just going to go with Kushida because he's on my team.
Ryan.
I'll flip it. I'll go Pete Dunne.
And I'm going to split the panel here. I'm also going to go with Pete Dunne. I think, he's been in a bit of a rut, but again, so has Pete Dunne. I think he needs to bounce back a bit more, given that he's, coming out of an NXT championship match, and he's still in a strong upper mid-carder position. I think he needs it more, personally. So moving swiftly on now to the NXT UK championship match, where the big Austrian man, as Scott refers to him, is Walter versus Tommaso Ciampa. Now, Ryan, I'm not really sure what the point of this match is, because WWE's schedule has sort of kind of spoiled this match already, given that NXT UK Prelude is coming out on, I believe it's the same night as night 2, so that would be this Thursday, where it's advertising Walter versus Rampage Brown after night 1. So I have to ask, is there really any point to?
I think it's
to this match, knowing that the results have been spoiled.
Aye, for me, it's kind of like the obvious option is to go. Walter's winning, Ciampa's going to get beat, and that's the end of it, because, like you say, you've got the prelude one on for night 2. But there's also something that makes me think that because of the situation that they've got just now, in terms of the way the world is, that it could. Why would they not? It's not like they're keeping it a secret that as if we think for a second that Walter's going to be in Orlando one night and then back in London the next. The kayfabe's kind of broke in terms of this, so people know that that's going to have been pre-recorded. So would they maybe care about that? Would they maybe just reference it? If they dubbed over the commentary for tomorrow night and maybe say, "Oh, I know this happened last night, but he's not got the title anymore." Blah blah blah. So you never know. You never know how it could go. To be honest with you, but I think the easy choice is a Walter victory, in all honesty. But I'd like to see it. I'd like to see a curveball. I'd like to see them break that kayfabe a little bit.
Fair enough. Now, Ross, obviously Tommaso Ciampa's currently being outmatched, 4-1 against Imperium. But yet Timothy Thatcher's been missing from the scene for quite some time. Obviously, there's been stories going round about potential COVID outbreaks around the Performance Center. I think he was one of the people affected by it. But it does raise an interesting question, because Timothy Thatcher is no stranger to the likes of Walter and Marcel Bartel, because they were in a stable once before known as Kampf. Do you think that if does get involved, could we potentially see a defection?
No. I think this is going to lead to maybe Imperium going up against Ciampa and Thatcher. We see it all the time in WWE, when people reference the old life, outside. How many times was Finn Balor offered the 2 Sweet by AJ Styles in the club, only to turn it down and go his own way? And
good point.
I think that's going to be the case here. I think Walter's winning, but I think the main story is going to be, will Timothy Thatcher join Imperium? No, he won't. And I think tomorrow Walter's losing the title to Rampage Brown.
Interesting. Okay, Scott, do you have anything else to add about the interaction between Thatcher and Imperium, or possibly what could happen with Rampage Brown on NXT UK Prelude?
It is a shame that they've chosen to advertise these 2 matches on different nights, where like even in a pre-COVID era, it'd be cutting it fine for Walter to do this match with Ciampa and then immediately fly back to do the thing with Rampage, so it's pre-taped. So like the story of this match, it'll be one of the best matches of the night. The story is less about will Ciampa win the title and more so, like Ross said, will Thatcher join Imperium? And if it is a case that he can't be there because of like COVID, that would be a shame, because I think he is going to should be factored into the finish quite strongly here. It is a weird matchup. Like, it's not the 2 people that you'd ever expect to see, especially not for the UK title. I do agree Rampage Brown is going to beat Walter the next night. So it's the first time since Tyler Bate won the title that the title will change hands in the UK. And because if it's not Rampage Brown, then who? Because we had so many people set up to Walter, everybody thought it was going to be Dragunov, and he didn't win it. So I think it has to be Rampage Brown. I think they're going to do this thing with the Imperium where Walter can come over to the US more often, and Rampage starts to become the guy carrying NXT UK.
Yeah, so I think we're all in agreement that Walter's going to retain against Ciampa, but the consensus is that Rampage Brown will be the one to defeat him, which is, because we're not really talking a lot about NXT UK Prelude, but Mega Suite, I think that's the consensus I'm getting here.
Because it's one match. I don't care about the other matches on that card.
There's a grand total of 3 of them.
Oh, well, the other 2 don't count, so...
Anyway, back to Stand and Deliver. Our next match will be the NXT Tag Team Championship match between MSK, GYV, and LDF. So MSK, Grizzled Young Vets, and Legado del Fantasma. Now, the story behind this is that the NXT tag titles have been vacated because Danny Burch suffered a separated shoulder on, I think it was a few weeks ago. And as a result, Lorcan and Burch have had to vacate due to injury. So we've got three teams with all different sort of positionings on the NXT card. We've got MSK, who have won the Dusty Cup, prime spot, to capture the tag team championship. We've got the outsider team, Legado del Fantasma, that sort of, managed to get themselves in this title match. But we've also got potentially a team that's been chomping at the bit for a while in the form of grizzled young vets. So, Scott, which of these teams, if any of them, stand out the most? And who do you think's gathered the most momentum for this opportunity to capture the NXT tag titles?
So we got MSK, GYV, LDF, OMG. It's a very interesting way. Like you could see Grizzled Young Vets and MSK get involved. It's weird that they didn't put like a Breezango in the third spot or anything, because looking at Legado del Fantasma, and it's no disrespect to them as wrestlers, but this just screams to me this team is taking the pin. One of them is there to take the pin. And I think if you look at our everybody's sweeps, and Ross probably back me up on this, the sweeps probably reflect that, and we're on the question of who takes the pin in the match. You either got Wild or Mendoza. But I think my heart was the MSK, not just because they're my draft team, but I think they've had a hot start. You know, sometimes you do need someone just come in hot, win a title straight away to really establish them. Because they obviously were popular in Impact as the Rascals. But now I think they might try and flip the story, where I think their plan was for them to win the titles and then feud with Grizzled Young Vets. But I could easily see them switching around where Grizzled Young Vets steal the titles and MSK then have to chase them and win them maybe at the next takeover.
I mean, right, it's a story in itself. Ryan, the NXT tag team division's been a bit of a rut as of late, you know, following the departure of teams like the Street Profits, the Undisputed Era, the Viking Raiders, just to name a few of them. But do you think having these teams on Showcase and one of them's guaranteed to be the new champions, do you think that sort of injects new life into what some would say was called maybe a slump in the NXT tag division?
Yeah, honestly, you took the words right off the tip of my tongue, Dave. That's what I was going to say. I feel like the NXT tag division kind of get forgotten about. I forgot about it, you know, mainly until the last few weeks. I think that's because I wasn't really hot on Lorcan and Burch as champs, so my focus kind of went from it. But looking at the three teams on this, I think if you're going to say there's a slump in the NXT tag division, you've got three very, very good teams here that are going to try and prove you wrong. I think, Scott, you made the point about Legado del Fantasma. Fucking easy for me to say that, innit? You can tell it's late at night. Santos' boys, my man Santos. As much as they're a bit of a kind of wild card in this, they seem to be the third team in this triple threat. They're still very, very good. You know, the talent is still there. But for me, I think you made a good point about MSK coming in, getting the Dusty Cup, kind of strapping a rocket to them and letting them go. But I think they're going to miss a massive trick if they don't put the belts on the grizzled young veterans in this, because I actually think you made a very good point, Dave, about kind of flipping that kind of narrative that we're going to have about MSK taking the belts. I think it'd be really good to see them chasing them against the vets. So that's who I'll go out and say it just now. I'm a massive Grizzled Young Veteran fan. You know, I nearly picked them for our tag team in the draft this year. Granted, I'm very, very happy I never, but that's how hot I was on this team, because I thought they were going to do some cracking stuff, because they were going to be the backup team for us or on a singles thing. But that's who my eyes are on in this match. They always put on a cracking match. They've had the UK titles. It makes sense for them to come across and take the main NXT titles as well.
Ross, let's talk about MSK for a second, because they've kind of just hit the ball running when it came to their arrival in NXT. Their debut match was in the Dusty Cup, and they've just went the whole distance, winning, I think it was 4 matches they won, with the fifth win getting them the cup itself. But how do you think because they're very talented in the ring. You know, they were formerly known as the Rascals in, I think it was Impact Wrestling or Ring of Honor. And now they're in NXT. Do you think they've been pushed to the moon too quickly, or do you think this is like the best build that they could have had so far?
No, because as you pointed out and as Ryan said, the NXT tag division was sort of forgot about. You know, Breezango never made an NXT takeover appearance as tag champs. Lorcan and Burch appeared as tag champs in War Games, but never defended the titles on a takeover. So it was sort of forgot about. They were sort of like sideshow props here. Whereas MSK's came in, hit the ground running. Grizzled Young Veterans are the team you love to hate. They are there to squash the feel-good story that is MSK. And Scott mentioned, if we check the big sweep, which I just did for everyone that's entered so far, everyone on the sweep has one of Wild or Mendoza, or Fat Dog Mendoza, as Ryan referred to him as. Everyone has them taking the pin, except our host tonight, Mr. Haughney. Mr. Haughney, you chose Wes Lee to take the pin tonight. I personally think you're a fool, but I think MSK have hit the ground running. I think they've deserved this push. I think the NXT tag division needed someone to have this push, because when you're pushing someone like this feel-good story and you have someone like a Grizzled Young Veterans there to basically pull the rug out from under them and be total, well, they're being knobheads. That's basically what they are. That's their role, and they're playing it to a T. Then I think it works really well. I also think MSK chasing the titles, much like DIY when they were faces, works a lot better than MSK as champions. So I think Grizzled Young Veterans are going to win it tonight, and I do think Joaquin Wilde from Legado del Fantasma will be taking the pin.
Fair enough. So let's go around and get everybody's official predictions. So will MSK capitalize on their Dusty Cup opportunity? Will Legado del Fantasma sneak in through the back door? Or will Grizzled Young Veterans soon be recognized as NXT Tag Team Champions? Scott,
I'm really
you got
your hostess. I'm really rethinking that.
Hey, you're lucky I didn't do any accent this time, so that's your lifeline. Anyway, Scott.
Yeah. I've actually put MSK down in my sweep, so it'd be kind of hypocritical for me not to say that, even though I said that I could easily swing the other way and go to Grizzled Young Vets, but I've got to stand, like it says in the title, I need to stand and deliver and stand by my convictions and go with MSK.
And Ross, you said you're going with Grizzled Young Vets?
Yeah, Grizzled Young Vets, and Legado is there to take the pin.
Ryan, are you in the set as Ross, or are you side Scott here?
No, I'm the same side as Ross. And Ross, just wanted to very quickly touch on what you said there. You were regretting letting Dave host it. Just a shame you never asked me, mate, because I'd be doing the exact same thing. I'm going to say the Grizzled Young Veterans are soon to be recognised as your NXT Tag Team Champs, my man.
I mean, if you're going to do it, you need to do it right. You need to call them the Grizzled Young Veterans.
We'd like to apologise to the people of Liverpool for these
I'm going to make it
impersonations.
I'm going to make it 3 out of 4 here. I'm also going to go with Grizzled Young Vets. I think they've been chomping at the bit for so long now. I think it's time to capitalise and let MSK continue to chase them a bit longer. So we'll move on now to the North American title scene at the minute, and I'm going to merge sort of 2 matches together. So on night 1, we've got the 6-man gauntlet eliminator match, a concept which NXT has actually done very, very well on 2 occasions. This will be the 3rd one, I believe. And then on night 2, the winner of that eliminator goes on to face Johnny Gargano for the NXT North American Championship. So looking at the competitors of the gauntlet eliminator, you've got only one of them is a former NXT North American champion in Leon Ruff. And he's going to be starting off as the number 1 entrant with someone who's been having a feud with lately, Isaiah Swerve Scott. Then you've got a couple of outsiders in the form of Bronson Reed and Cameron Grimes, to the moon. And but you've also got someone who is kind of like the new kid on the block, but a very charismatic, cocky individual who's going to enter last after winning the Battle Royal in LA Knight. And then you've got the Gargano family's stables practical stalker, shall we say, in the form of Dexter Lumis, who's come close a few times to the NXT North American title, but has been held back by injuries in some capacity. So I'm just going to throw out to you guys here. Does this? We know we've talked about the NXT tag division getting a bit of a kick up the arse in terms of getting refreshed. Do you think this match does the same with the NXT North American title match. Ryan, I'll start with you.
Sorry, Dave. I was just very quickly messaging Ross McLeod there because I got confused on this one for the sweeps. I am changing my choice that I've made on this match. Ross, it is in your inbox right now, man. If you want to have a wee look, we have got plenty of time.
Change, mate. That's locked in key, my man.
I'm sorry, all predictions are locked in, Ryan.
Listen. Has the show started yet? No, it has not started yet. So it's an official change.
I'm going to have to do a Bruce Forsyth. I'm going to have to accept your first answer.
Absolutely not, mate. Sorry, Dave, what was your question just about this match?
Yeah, I was just... anyway, back. I was just saying, do you think kind of refreshes the North American title match in the same way that the triple threat tag title has refreshed them?
Sorry, Dave, you'll need to tell me that one more time, mate. You cut off there.
I think this
for
is
me.
refreshing the North American title scene, much like the triple threat is revitalizing the tag division.
There we go, Scott. Help me here.
Let's go. Scott, what do you think?
I think so too. I also think Dave should move to a house where the Wi-Fi doesn't run on wind.
I'm having a terrible time here. Give me peace.
I'm looking forward to this. I mentioned on Central that apparently WWE's failed the trademark for Gauntlet Eliminator, so they are going to keep this as a key match for NXT, and I think that's a good idea. Leon Ruff, I can see like getting fluke wins against like Swerve and Bronson Reed, and then being knackered, and then it comes Cameron Grimes for the quick win, and then also you've got LA Knight in the final spot, former Eli Drake, the perfect spot for him to be in, but I definitely think this is being set up for Loomis to not only win this, but go on to win the title, because also he's got the story built in with Gargano, and I'm pretty sure they felt like they were positioning him to win the title back at Takeover 30 in the ladder match. Then he had to be taken out due to injury. So much like Cross not having to finally get the run with the NXT title he was deserving of, and now Dexter Loomis finally gets the title and he deserves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ross, what do you make of LA Knight's arrival? Because he's come out, cutting some really heelish promos, and he's carrying himself pretty well in the ring here. So it's there we go. Big Alan Laurie says Ryan's Wi-Fi is worse. So there we go. Thank you, Alan.
Worse than the Wi-Fi in a restaurant, not worse than yours.
Yeah. So Ross, what's your first impression of LA Knight? Given that he's been cutting a few promos, he's only had a handful of matches, but he's already in the North American title scene.
Well, my blue leather jacket is at the dry cleaners at the minute, unfortunately. But let me talk to you. LA Knight comes in, just completely schools Wade Barrett and Sam Roberts. We were absolutely delighted to see him put that wee ginger knob in his place. He is such a cocky, arrogant, just so unlikable, and yet at the same time you want to be him. He wears the cool gear that if you bought it you could not pull it off, because he's built like a god and I'm built like a melted yogurt. But he is so good at the minute, and I think this might be a bit too soon for him. I think there's other feuds going on in the North American title division. I think Johnny Gargano is really hitting his stride as a cocky heel champion, and I think the longer he goes as champion, the more annoyed people will be. So I think if he does win tonight, wins the Gauntlet Eliminator, I think it may be under dubious circumstances. I think he might screw a Bronson Reed or a Dexter Loomis out of the match, and then maybe one of them will cost him the title match on night 2.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, the only other person I can really see winning this match is Dexter Loomis.
Yeah, there have been a lot of favorites predictions going for Dexter Loomis here, given that he's been stalking the Garganos for so long. I mean, it only makes sense for storyline purposes and stuff. Loomis is winning it, but I don't think he's beaten Gargano Gargano for the title. I think this could be stretched a little bit longer, and it gives Johnny another title situation. But what do the rest of you guys think? Scott, I'll start with you.
In case anyone out there doesn't speak buffering, I think David's trying to say he thinks Lumis is winning but not winning the title, whereas I'm the opposite. I think Lumis is winning and then winning the title. And Austin Theory will play a role in this, and the way will start to crumble as we know it.
Okay. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, before I give my choice, if Alan Laurie is still watching just now, it's not Ryan, your Wi-Fi is worse than the one in you. It's Champ. You'll refer to me as Champ at all times. Okay, so if you want to come on here again, you want to put another wee comment in the bottom, that's fine. You can get wide all you want, mate, but just make sure it says Champ down the bottom. But anyway, back to the wrestling here.
Yes.
I agree with Scott. I think that Dexter Lumis picks up the win in this, and I think he also goes on to win the title, and we start to see the way crumbling.
Ross, do you agree?
Alan Lawyer's just annoyed that somebody called Ryan is kicking his arse in the Listeners League.
Look at that. I can't even spell either. I blame the skills.
Ross, do you think the same?
Sorry, before Ryan turns this into just does Tim's and starts fighting with all the listeners, I'll go into my prediction, will I?
No.
I think... I was so confident with LA Knight there, but I think I might have been swayed to the way. I think Dexter Lumis to win the Gauntlet Eliminator, and I think it won't be Austin Theory, it'll be Indy Hartwell that defects for Dexter Lumis, because she's had the sort of, she likes him, she thinks she's made some very inappropriate comments that shouldn't be said in the workplace about a fellow colleague, but she's into him. So I think whether it be Austin Theory or be Hartwell, I think somebody is defecting from the way.
This is the way.
That is the way we like it. But yeah, so we do have a couple of women's matches on the cards as well. One of which is the first title defense of the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships on a takeover. Don't at me with the first night defense. I've done my homework here, and it's going to be Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart going up against The Way, Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. A match
Indy Hartwell.
Oh my god. But yeah, again the NXT Women's Tag Team Championship, still a relatively new championship, but Ember and Shotzi have just sort of taken the ball and just ran with it here. I'm just going to be very quick on this one. Do we see Ember and Shotzi retaining against The Way, or do you think this will fall on from the previous discussion we had about The Way sort of starting to come apart at the seams? Ryan, what do you think?
No, I agree with what you just said there, Dave. I think this could be quite an easy choice for us. I think Shotzi and Ember retain. I think we'll start to see, depending on when this kind of match falls on the card, I think we can start to see the cracks forming in this one between Candice and Indy as well, which will kind of lead on to whatever happens later on. But I can see one winner, and it's going to be Shotzi and Ember.
Mm-hmm. Scott, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this will probably open night 2 and will be on before the North American title match. So this will set the groundwork for the breakup. Maybe Austin Theory will get involved in the Gauntlet night before trying and failing to cost Lumis the match. But yeah, this will start the dissension in The Way. Shotzi and Ember will win. And because I don't have much else to say, I will just plug this in here. Ember and Shotzi will have to face all manner of new teams going forward. Some suggestions which can be found in an article I wrote for a website called Cultured Vultures, titled 5 Potential Challengers for the Women's Tag Team Champions. Go check it out now. It's on Twitter.
Somebody cut them off.
There you go. There you go. Check out on Culture Vultures Scott's new article on 5 challengers that can face Ember and Shotzi. So, and then lastly, Ross, have you got Ember and Shotzi retaining as well?
Aye, I think they did the sort of shotgun tag title change on the first episode of NXT when they first came in. I can't see them jumping the titles from one team to Shotzi and Ember to then another team. I think this plays into the dissension, into the crumbling of the way. You know what I mean? I think Ember Moon picks up the win for her team, and I think she pins Candice LeRae.
All right. And the other women's match we've got on, this was announced this week as well. Night one is going to have a pre-show match between Toni Storm and NXT's sort of next, possibly NXT's next breakout female superstar in the form of Zoe Stark. Again, very quickly, guys, I think Zoe Stark is where her stock begins to rise with not just a high-profile match against Io Shirai, a couple of UK women's champion, Toni Storm. So, Ross, what do you make of Zoe Stark?
Yeah, it looks like they're pushing her pretty hard. The women's division on all brands kind of took a hit during the pandemic. I think, obviously, we saw that with Charlotte being NXT champ, but still being on all three brands. We saw that with Bayley and Sasha appearing on all three brands as the double champs and as the tag team champs. NXT has signed a massive amount of talent recently, and much like MSK, they're just hitting the ground running with people like Zoe Starks, you know, putting her in there with the NXT champion, putting her in there as I believe she was Io's tag partner a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
Yeah, so putting her in that situation, putting her might just be a pre-show match, but they're putting her in there with a former number one contender for the NXT title, former NXT UK Women's Champion, Toni Storm, on the biggest week of the wrestling calendar. So the fact that they've shoehorned it in there shows that they have faith in her, and I think this will be the start of a feud, and I think it will be her first big win. I think Zoe Stark's winning.
Mm-hmm. Ryan, Scott, anything else to add on this pre-show match?
Not really, no, because Zoe Stark, like you said, she lost to Io. She was in that tag match where she got pinned by, I think, Raquel. So while her stock will rise later on down the line, she's right now, I think, being used to help lose to people who need a win right now. And Toni Storm's coming off two failed attempts to win the NXT Women's title, so Toni's going to win. I don't even know why NXT Takeovers even need a pre-show. The card themselves are already stacked.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree with Scott, and I actually agree with Ross on this. I can see Zoe Stark taking the win on this. They have been pushing her quite hard recently, putting her in decent matches. Like Ross said, they've shoehorned her into WrestleMania week somehow, just by giving her a nothing match, but they've shoehorned her in anyway. I think it's the important thing to remember with NXT is, even though we think it's class, NXT is still the breeding ground for talent. It's where it's still a developmental territory. You know, fair enough, they've got some decent names in there, but they still move people up to Raw and SmackDown from it, so it still has that development territory. I think having Zoe Stark in, she's looked really good in the matches she's had, although she's not picked up. I don't know if she's picked up any wins or she's picked up some or whatever, but she's looked very, very good in any match that I've seen her. So I agree with Ross. I think they've put her in here for a reason. They've shoehorned her into WrestleMania weekend because they know there's going to be eyes on her. She's going to pick up a win against somebody that people know in Toni Storm. And post WrestleMania, she's going to become, I reckon, within the next year, she'll become one of the biggest stars that NXT have got.
Mm-hmm. It just goes to show how much investing in the women's division now, arguably the best that, best in any of them. So yeah, let's we've still got a few matches left to cover, so we'll jump straight into the Cruiserweight Championship ladder match. Jordan Devlin, who was recognized as the official champion, going against the interim champion, as listed on WWE's website. Jordan Devlin versus Santos Escobar, and the winner becomes the undisputed Cruiserweight champion. I mean, Scott, you can't go wrong with a ladder match on NXT TakeOver, can you? And with two of the best cruiserweights around, do you think this has the potential to steal the show?
Oh, 100%. But you think you can say that just about every match we've talked about for the most part, except for Zoe Stark v Toni Storm. It's a fucking pre-show match. I really
go over yourself, you.
It was a weird way that they decided to the weird way they decide to have this as a ladder match. You just had Shawn Michaels come out. Here, lads, here's a ladder. I mean, that time I wrestled in a ladder match that WWE goes on about once or twice. But, what did WrestleMania and Jordan Devlin's head have in common? They're both massive. And I think, as much as also there's been some allegations around Jordan Devlin, given the fact that some other people who've had allegations are still working in NXT UK, I think Devlin is actually going to win this. And, his head can be used to his advantage. All he has to do, they're both fighting a ladder. All he has to do is headbutt Santos. Santos gets a concussion, we'll never see him again.
I love how Scott's going on about the size of his head here when he's not exactly sitting there with a fucking tiny head himself, man.
That's like an orange on a toothpick.
I know they were actually going to call you Cranium rather than Scott when you were born, mate, but whatever.
Whatever. So, but let's say that while Ross is sitting there with the light glistening off of his bloody
Ross,
forehead.
You leave my full dome alone.
Kind of been like
Five dome.
All this patter is fucked Dave's internet.
I think we've lost. We haven't lost Dave, but he is still buffering. He is trying to make a point.
And what a it was.
Yeah, I was just saying.
Dave himself is quite clearly an android who needs a software update.
Dave, have you tried turning off and on again?
Have you plugged yourself in?
Nice.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was nothing to do with us. That was a virus being uploaded. Maybe that's what's wrong with it. Maybe somebody's uploading viruses to this live feed.
Download it again.
TV returns. Right, sorry, Dave, on you go.
Continue, Dave. Let's go.
Yeah, so Ross, I was just going to say Santos Escobar wouldn't have been Cruiserweight champion probably if it wasn't for COVID. So, and we probably wouldn't have had this match if it wasn't for COVID either. So, do you think this kind of messed up the original plan, which was possibly Jordan Devlin taking the Cruiserweight title over to NXT UK for a while?
I think it was more integrating it into both brands. NXT UK has a lot of smaller guys, so I think it would have found more of a niche over there. It would certainly have made, I don't know if it would have made more casual fans tune in, but you could have filmed 205 Live over there. The UK crowd is, as we know, the UK crowd always brings it. So I think they would be welcoming if, they had a 205 Live with all their UK stars that they know. I think that could have worked pretty well. Or maybe it was just used to make Jordan Devlin a star. Apparently, right about the time he won the title, reports were coming out that Shawn Michaels was so high up on him. Shawn Michaels absolutely loved him, thought he was the next big thing. So I don't know what the original plan was, but Santos has held it well. He was originally called the interim champion. Then speaking out happened. Some allegations are made towards Jordan Devlin. Santos is then the interim's dropped, and he's all of a sudden the NXT champion, Cruiserweight champion. But then when NXT UK starts back up, all of a sudden Jordan Devlin is back, and he's still got the title. So it's a bit of a weird one. I think WWE kind of covered themselves for all bases, and then now that allegations, I'm not saying they've not amounted to anything, but WWE haven't taken action against Devlin. Now that they're not taking action against Devlin, they're stuck with two champions. And I think what better place than WrestleMania week to unify the titles? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you, and as I said before, you can't go wrong with a ladder match. So let's get predictions down because we're running short of time and we've still got 2 matches to cover. So, Ryan, who do you think's winning?
I'm going to go Devlin for everything that we've just said. I think the Escobar was meant to be an interim champ. He was never meant to be there, but I think now we've got the Devlin back. I think they're going to push him the way they intended to push him this time last year.
Mm-hmm. Ross?
With Shawn Michaels so high up on him, and with the fact that Santos was meant to be the interim champion. I think this is, now that COVID passports are a thing, I think this is going to be Jordan Devlin and a start of a very big push for him in NXT and NXT UK.
Fair enough. And Scott?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with the guys. Santos has done really well stepping up to this role, so I'm sure he'll still go on to do, good things in the future. But Devlin, I think, will win the title. He's been defending it before he came over on NXT UK against likes of A-Kid and Ben Carter, or whatever they've changed his name to now. So I think, again, integrating the two brands, bringing more NXT UK guys over, I think, Devlin's going to win.
Ones, and I've actually gone with Escobar because I think COVID-19 is still going to be a bit of an issue with international travel, and I think for the moment it'd be better to have the Cruiserweight title back on Performance Center NXT and just saying it for now, but I don't think there's any reason why NXT UK can't pick up the Cruiserweight title at a later date when things have sort of calmed down a bit. So you guys have all went with Devlin, I've gone with Escobar. So again, a bit of a split panel here. Now, this next one's really going to hurt me because I am not leaving the memories alone with this one. Undisputed Era forever. It's an unsanctioned it's an unsanctioned match between Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. Scott, I mean, what needs to be said here? It's heartbreaking.
Well, probably quite a bit. Otherwise, we'd have to be having some quiet time. But it's weird how they built to this, because obviously you had the shocking turn at Vengeance Day. Then Cole took out O'Reilly, and O'Reilly's selling, made everybody think he was legit having a seizure. And then they had to say to everybody, he's not, he's okay, he's just selling. And then after, we all thought Cole was going to win the title and this feud was going to be for the title. And that didn't happen. But then Kyle O'Reilly shows up with this weird denim jacket, this new look, like he's one of the kids from the Cobra Kai TV show. And he's just showed back up, and they've been doing all these weird things to build to this feud. But I think the fact they've put an unsanctioned onto it, and last time NXT did an unsanctioned match between two former friends was Gargano and Ciampa. So I think it does put some lofty expectations on it. I'll be interested to see if Roderick Strong, because he's not in the Gauntlet Unlimited, if he plays a role, if Bobby Fish is able to come back and play a role in it, because I don't think this will be the only match these two have while they're still in NXT.
Ross. As Scott mentioned, getting some Ciampa Gargano vibes from a few years ago back in New Orleans, given that that unsanctioned match between Ciampa.
Yeah, you're buffering a wee bit again, Dave, but I'll take it from here. Yeah, there is a vibe of Gargano versus Ciampa here, and that actually plays into my prediction, because I think Adam Cole is already a major player in NXT. He is the guy in Triple H's mind. I don't see him going up to Raw and SmackDown anytime soon. I think with them moving to Tuesday nights, I think they still want Adam Cole there. So I've got a feeling Kyle O'Reilly picks up the win, much like Johnny Gargano did back in 2018. But the big push and the person to lead the charge will be much like Tommaso Ciampa was for the DIY split. Adam Cole will be the guy that comes out of the Undisputed Era split with the push and the momentum. I think Kyle O'Reilly needs this win, because it's going to be what they hang his hat on. The fact that he's beat Adam Cole. Adam Cole is already a star. So,
Ryan, do you echo those sentiments? Given that Kyle O'Reilly, he's had a bit of a breakout in 2021 as a single star, facing Balor a handful of times on 2 takeovers in a row, but Kate was unsuccessful. Do you think Kyle needs this win over Adam Cole to establish himself as a single star in NXT?
I would agree, Dave, that he does need a win here, because, like you say, he has led them to the 2 title matches where he was unbelievable. I think it just showed people what O'Reilly can actually do. He was always just a tag team guy in the UE. It was always Adam Cole was a spotlight, but I think when O'Reilly's been able to break out, he's just been phenomenal. And them matches with Balor, I think, are 2 of my favourite matches I've ever watched. in all honesty. I agree with Ross what he said about Adam Cole. I think he's going to be the one that comes out of the whole UE thing with the rocket strapped to his back and shoot to the moon. I think he is going to be the guy. I was wondering if he would maybe make the move up to Raw or SmackDown. I don't quite see it, probably for the same reasons that Ross said. See, if they weren't moving to Tuesdays, I probably would have disagreed with Ross, in all honesty. But because they're moving to Tuesdays and they need that focal point, that main guy, I also think they've got a bit of there's a wee bit in this whole Pat McAfee storyline as well that's yet to be finished. Somewhere down the line as well, I can see him come back at some point and maybe extending a bit of a feud. So I think Cole come out of this looking great, but I think that O'Reilly really needs to pick up the win here, like Ross said, to kind of hang his hat on that and show that he is a main player in NXT, regardless of what happens to him afterwards, if he moves on or sticks about.
Mm-hmm. So just to clarify, we're all going with Kyle O'Reilly to win here.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, because I think what's interesting about this is these two guys have fought on a final battle, a Wrestle Kingdom, and now they're fighting on a Takeover, and hopefully they'll fight on a WrestleMania in a few years where Cole can say, "Oh, that didn't count; it was unsanctioned." So that gives them a jumping off point for a future feud.
Tell you what, fingers triple crossed for that, because those two at WrestleMania would be incredible. Now, one match left to go, and then I'm going to go for a much needed lie down after this. So, yeah, the main event of night one, a very heavily advertised NXT Women's Championship match where we've got the Genius of the Sky, Io Shirai, going up against Big Mami Cool in the form of Raquel Gonzalez. Now, Ryan, this is quite an interesting development because this wasn't Raquel earning the title match. This was Io going up to Raquel and demanding that she face her at the next Takeover. But looking at Raquel's build from around War Games, you'd have thought she'd have earned that title match anyway, given how much of a dominant run she's been on.
I feel like Io demanding this one almost kind of goes hand in hand with the fact that Raquel earned it. In all honesty, I think that was the obvious one that you've seen on screen, but I think she had it earned anyway, and I think Io Shirai's, the way they kind of panned it out, might have looked like she was going to her, but I think it was more a case of going, okay, I know you're next, let's do this, and this is how it's going to go. We're coming up against each other here. So I think Raquel's build since then, they've just before War Games, I would never have thought that Raquel was going to be the next NXT Women's Champion. I would have thought she would have been NXT Women's Champion at some point, just not next. But ever since that match, picking up the win over Io, she got the pin in War Games. It just built that storyline. I think that there's no way on earth that Raquel does not walk out of NXT this week with that title.
Mm-hmm. Now, Ross, Io Shirai has been NXT Women's Champion for over 300 days now. I'm just going to list off a list of competitors she's beaten. Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley, Tegan Nox, Sasha Banks, Shotzi Blackheart, Dakota Kai, Toni Storm, Mercedes Martinez, Candice LeRae, and Zoe Stark. Does that run of successful title defenses make a case for her to be arguably one of the greatest NXT Women's Champions of all time?
Oh, 100%. Think as well, you didn't say Toni Storm there, did you?
I did say Toni Storm, yeah.
You did, yeah. So the feud before obviously was Io Shirai, Toni Storm. I think this plays in to this feud with Raquel Gonzalez, because the feud with Toni Storm was built around the fact that when it comes to the big time in WWE, Toni Storm had always beaten Io Shirai, going back to Evolution 2018, where she beat her in the finals of the second Mae Young Classic.
Mm-hmm.
She had never beaten her. So when that monkey was off of Io Shirai's back, I think there was only one thing. There was only one monkey on her back then, and it was the fact that Raquel Gonzalez pinned her in a War Games match. I think that was the big story coming out of that night. It was the fact that One, Raquel Gonzalez, who's usually she played the Diesel role basically. She was Dakota Kai's heater. She pinned the NXT Women's Champion in the middle of the ring, fair and square. There was no, oh, well, did she get her shoulders up? There was no foot in the ropes. There was nothing. She pinned her fair and square. And then nothing was really mentioned. You know, Io Shirai had other things to go take care of. And now it's, would you call it, now it's come back full circle. It's a case of, right, I beat Tony, I need to beat you, and now no one can say that I haven't beaten, you know, I haven't beaten them, I don't deserve to be champion. It's basically Io Shirai getting all her ducks in a row and going, right, beat them, beat them, beat them, beat them, beat them, I need to beat you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and finally, Scott, I mean, Raquel Gonzalez has had a very dominant run since sort of breaking out as a competitor in NXT, but she has had a couple of hiccups along the way. You know, obviously winning the Dusty Cup was a highlight for her, but losing to Nia and Shayna and then becoming the inaugural NXT Women's Tag Champions before losing it to Ember and Shotzi in the same night, it's not exactly been the smoothest run of Raquel, but how likely is it that she'll finish on a high and become NXT Women's Champion?
I think it's extremely likely because when you think about it, she pinned Io at War Games. Since then, she sent Rhea Ripley packing from NXT. She won the Dusty Classic alongside Raquel, and you look back at that Dusty final, they made her look like the most dominant competitor in that match. And like, yeah, I think they were meant to win the women's tag titles at the end of the Dusty Classic, but the titles weren't ready yet. So then they had to have that match with Shayna and Nia, which says no favours. But I think eventually, if Raquel wins the title, she can have a feud with Dakota where these hiccups can be brought up and they can be blaming each other for those mistakes and say, I was carrying you, no, I was carrying you in that feud. And a lot of people think, oh, well, Io can't really lose if she's the one who made the challenge. But I think the opposite, because Io turned heel and became this new version of herself that we see now because of her frustration of not being able to win the title. Now she's won the title. She's held it for over 300 days, beaten everybody she can. But the one black mark she thinks is, she beat me in War Games. I can't have her have one over me. And so when she challenged her, eventually as a fighting champion as Io has been, eventually you're going to face a challenge you can't overcome. Like when Pete Dunne demanded to face Walter and couldn't beat him. Like Io's going to bite off more than she can chew with Raquel. And Raquel, I think, is going to come out on top.
So we've all got Raquel to win and become the new champion?
Yep.
Yeah.
Righto.
Yep.
Well, that was, it was a lot longer than our usual Takeover previews, given that, there was 10 matches, 11 matches to cover, I should say, if we're counting the pre-show. But yeah, that's going to do it for us here on our NXT Takeover Stand and Deliver preview show. Hope you've enjoyed it, minus a couple of Wi-Fi issues, but it's a work in progress. We'll have that sorted out. If you've...
Is that the Royal we? Because it wasn't me. Wasn't it, Scott?
It actually wasn't me either. It was just you.
Yeah, I know. Again, just working on it. But yeah, check out our feature show this week on Spotify, iTunes, Anchor, and all good Android podcasting sites where we talk about the Raw after WrestleMania. Our central episode was broadcast live earlier on, but we've got our audio version, which is tomorrow night. The same platforms as we mentioned. Be sure to follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Super.
Dave, you're breaking up.
Join our community page to keep up with all the discussions and the topics discussed. And we'll be getting a lot of discussion given that it's...
Yeah, I'll wrap it up here, Dave, because you're breaking up a wee bit.
Yeah.
Just a quick roundup of what Dave said. Our feature show this week is on the Raw After Mania. Our feature show next week is on the career of China. They'll be available on Android, iTunes, Spotify, and all good Android podcasting sites at Suplex Retweet. You can also use at Suplex Retweet to find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Facebook, and on YouTube. You can also find us Eat Sleep Suplex Retweet community, where you can keep up with us there. And of course, we've got so much more coming this WrestleMania weekend. We have, of course, Saturday Draft Live every Saturday with Scott, David, and Jack. Myself and Ryan may make a wee appearance this Saturday. We might, seeing as it's the final show of the season, the big boys might make an appearance, you know what I mean? We've got a WrestleMania live stream Saturday night. We've got a WrestleMania live stream Sunday night. And if things work out and we can maybe get some people, we might do a quick live stream review on the Monday night, depending on how knackered we are. We will not promise that, because we might be like, not a chance. But I've been Ross McLeod. He's been Scott McLeod. That's been Ryan Gallagher. David Haughney has been hosting. He is powered through. Fair play, David. He's powered through and taking the slagging tonight, despite the Wi-Fi issues.
And
thank you very much.
Just to jump in, Ross, just in case you missed it, the feature show this week is... Sorry, no, I'll not do it. Ross,
and thank you very much, Daniel Campbell, for doing the producing and putting buffering every time Dave throws. Thank you very much, and we'll see you again for WrestleMania. Bye.